Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you sharing your day with us. Hopefully this will be educational and it'll be a learning experience for everyone on the line. A couple of housekeeping things. We are recording this meeting, so we'll share a link with you after the meeting to view again, or if you miss a portion of it to catch the parts that you did miss. We also have an open chat function going. So if you have questions that you would like to have answered by the panel, then please field those. We'd like to have this as interactive as humanly possible. We're trying to keep it conversational and not kill you with PowerPoints, and keep the topics relevant to what's important to you today based on what we sent to you in terms of the agenda. So to get things started, I'd like to just quickly welcome the panel. My name is Alan Peck. For those who don't know me, I'm a managing director with Valenta BPO. I've got 27 years of medical and surgical device background in business development and leadership responsibilities. And in my managing director role with Valenta, I'm a franchise owner in Connecticut, but I also am really excited to be building out a world-class team of franchise owners and managing partners in the Northeast region of the country. So that's who I am. The first person I'd like to introduce you to today, I'm going to read off of his bio, so please bear with me for a moment, but his name is Dan Claps, and Dan's the co-founder of Career Transition Leads, which is an IFPG company that connects potential franchisees with IFPG franchise consultants. Secondarily, Dan's the co-founder of Nurture Assist. Nurture Assist is a sister company of Career Transition Leads that connects potential franchisees directly with franchisors and nurtures leads for franchisors, brokers, and other vertices via their proprietary text messaging platforms. Dan's been a member of IFPG since 2015. Prior to Career Transition Leads, he was a successful IFPG consultant and business broker with Murphy Business and Financial for more than 3 years. Prior to being a broker, Dan managed multiple call centers, continually improving the overall sales processes and operations. As a natural collaborator, Dan enjoys interacting with franchise consultants and is passionate about helping them realize success. So Dan, thanks so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to hearing your insights on the marketplace.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. We're excited to speak about this.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Thank you again. Our next panelist is Jayesh Kasim. Jayesh is the co-founder of Valenta BPO. Initially starting his professional life as an engineer based in Queensland, Australia. Jayesh, we know it's very early in your day in Brisbane, so thanks for joining us, and we hope you have some coffee on board. Jayesh soon decided to follow his true passion in the financial services industry. His long belief that quality and holistic finance advice should be accessible to every Australian and small business led him to build and grow several national award-winning financial services businesses throughout Queensland. During this time, he identified the need and the benefit for systems and processes and also for outsourcing. As a result, he founded Valenta BPO with the objective of helping businesses create a competitive edge. He's co-founder of Valenta, which is a B2B consulting franchise offering digital transformation, consulting, outsourcing, and learning solutions. Jayesh's focus is on building a strong team of franchise partners globally. Jayesh provides strategic advice to franchise partners to accelerate growth and is always looking for the best solution for customers. Jayesh, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for creating this platform for us to have these conversations, and really appreciate your perspective on where the B2B franchise business is going from an owner-operator perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alan. Thanks. And look, I hope everyone finds this educational, and look forward to today's session here.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, listen, hope you're fired up, and Jayesh, look, hopefully you have some coffee on board today. So anyway, so just to get the conversation going, Dan, maybe we'll just start by lobbing a question your way. Where can you share what your expectations for growth are for 2021 in the B2B franchise sector?
Absolutely. So I've been fortunate enough to be involved in the assistance of helping individuals invest into franchise businesses for just over 6 years. And throughout those 6 years, I've seen a lot of different trends and ups and downs of industries. What I've seen consistently, just, irrespective of COVID, is that the B2B space has continued to grow over the past 6 years that I've been involved. What I've learned is that when most people are looking into franchise opportunities, they think of, the common ones: food service, fitness, things of that nature. And I've learned that so many of our candidates in our firm learn that they can actually be the CEO of their own B2B business, and that, their typical customer may be, a 2 million plus business owner that they can provide consulting to, or, other, business to business services. I think post COVID, we've seen a really large uptick in the B2B industry, because it's a business that you can run from your home. We have the capability to do meetings with other business owners from Zoom. We have the capability to run our businesses remotely. And so I've seen, a significant uptick, because, while having a business that has a good opportunity to, earn a living, it also is a lower investment. So we've seen a pretty significant trend upward through COVID, and hopefully into the new year, into this year.
Great.
Excellent. And Jayesh, from your perspective, what are your thoughts? What have you seen over the last year and a half dealing with COVID and a changing market dynamic?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's really been interesting, right? So with COVID, obviously everyone's, work environments changed, right? A lot of people, a lot of corporate executives, banking professionals and so on, who would go into the city, into the CBDs, who would go into their corporate offices, started working from home, you know what I mean? So obviously, and then even from C-levels and management teams as well, where they didn't think about virtual environments and so on as well. It sort of changed the way everyone started thinking about, their own work culture and so on as well. Obviously with that, there's been a lot of government support that's been provided, globally to a lot of large organizations that's kept them going. But behind the mind, people have had this thought about, are they still going to have their job? After all of this in 2021 and beyond, right? And that's sort of also given everyone the boost to start looking at different opportunities out there. Now, someone who's been in a corporate, and professional career, obviously may or may not be best suited for, running a brick and mortar store, right? Or a retail, food chain and so on as well. So I think that's where, we've actually seen a lot of interest come through from candidates in the last 6 months. I'd say from mid 2020, the number of inquiries that we've had have been significantly high. The quality of candidates out there as well is very high. So people are looking at opportunities. They're getting familiar in the B2B space as well, and looking at different franchise opportunities as well. So I think it's pretty strong from that perspective, right? And I think that trend is going to continue over the next 3 to 5 years as well, while a lot of this adjustment takes place as well.
Just to circle back on that, it's interesting. I know that I know for myself, I'm a big proponent for being in the office a lot of days, but, working from home does have its benefits. And I think a lot of people are realizing, they've gotten that opportunity to not have that commute. They've seen how much more time they have with their families. Maybe they were on a plane, like probably most of us on this call every other week, and are realizing what it's like to have that, time that they're not traveling. So I think the B2B is interesting, because you're able to have that work from home lifestyle typically, but you also are getting out into the community. You're also still getting, out there, as well.
Exactly. And, for someone who's built, their professional contacts and relationships, right, over 15, 20 years and so on as well, a B2B platform is the best way for them to leverage off that as well. And it's something they've done, right? So it's not a complete shift for them as well, right? There may be a few small changes in how they're doing it, but again, they're going to get the rewards for it as well. So it's a very easy transition for those that have already been in that environment.
Yeah, listen, let's be honest, guys. It's going to be nice to be able to be with each other someday soon, I hope. And hopefully we've got a solution around the corner. But I think what this taught us is that we can conduct business really well in a virtual environment, and we all learn to adjust and have virtual meetings. And we're a global company of Valenta. We've got service centers and locations in Malaysia and India and Trinidad and Tobago and all different time zones. And honestly, it's been really easy to facilitate these meetings via these platforms with customers with flexible time. It's actually a lot easier in some aspects to facilitate those meetings today than it was in 2019. So anyway, keeping things going. So one of the things I've been having the luxury of working with candidates looking to get into a Valenta franchise has been working with a lot of brokers, and in realizing that the quality of the brokership and the quality of that relationship with the potential franchise operator is so important. Dan, what would your advice be to somebody who's entrepreneurial, seeking a potential franchise and developing a relationship with a franchise broker?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that, to the first question, when looking at franchises, there's some specific questions that, we need to look intuitively into ourselves and answer. I know I started in a franchise system for uh, helping people look at franchise. As funny as that is, there's a franchise system for assisting others in franchising. And, I remember there were some core questions I asked, what was the day to day, right? Because I needed to know that, what was that day to day going to be? And this is something I enjoyed. Who is your top, your top franchisee or top producer? And then more importantly, why, right? Is there some specific component that they have that I also share, or do I not share that skill set? And then, number three, what is the negative? Every business has its negative. Finding that negative and then deciding if you either can deal with that day to day or delegate it in a way is really important. Those are questions to ask yourself when looking at opportunities. As far as working with a consultant, we're fortunate to have a tremendous amount of great franchise consultants. Franchise consulting started, I want to say, a little over 25 years ago. It's a newer industry, and it's really grown in the past, in my opinion, 5 to 10 years. There's some tremendous consultants out there. There's consultants that are currently multiple franchisees, and they're providing consulting from the experience of being a franchisee. There's many that come from backgrounds of development, of helping franchises grow, and they're able to provide that perspective. And then there's many that come from the corporate world, not actually owning franchises, but able, understanding of the process and the system. Because I think franchising is all about having the skills and the ability, and the rest is taught, the techniques. If you say, top things to look for in a franchise consultant, I think someone that's going to spend the time getting to know you. I think that, if they're putting your interests first, they're going to learn about you for the first 30 minutes or hour and a half of your dialogue, and see if they're asking the right questions. They should be asking questions that are getting you to really get your wheels turning, thought provoking on what you want to accomplish, not just what you like out of the food that you ate at a restaurant and that's why you own that business, but what are you actually looking to get to, and what business can be that vehicle to get there.
Excellent. And Jayesh, what can you maybe describe the difference in candidates that you've met with that have worked with a franchise broker previously versus those who are kind of coming into this cold and just looking to learn?
Sure. Look, it's interesting, right? With brokers, I've had the pleasure of working with brokers, for just over 12 months right now, and it's been great, right? I met a lot of brokers during this period, and getting to know them individually as well. There are some brokers who spend a lot of time trying to understand the brand, understand the concept and the offering, right? Which is great because we know that they're spending the time understanding this, and they're going to translate that and educate their prospects on that as well, right? On the candidates, for candidates, I'd say that. Yeah, absolutely. When you're speaking to a broker, I think one of the main things is, can you get along well? I think that's pretty important as well, because it is a bit of a journey for a few months. So you want to have that great working relationship as well with them, right? And for us, it's interesting when we have candidates that come through directly, sometimes what we do see, it could be a 50-50, right? On one side, they have done their research thoroughly about the business. So when they make an inquiry with us, they're pretty much ready to go. That they understand it, which is great, and that's very good. It sort of shows a confidence in the candidate and so on as well, right? And sometimes, it could be from different lead generation sources, like they've seen something on YouTube and they've clicked the lead that's come through and so on. Those probably need a little bit more of qualifications, but we can capture a lot of information, right? So we know where they've actually clicked, what location they've clicked from, and so on as well. So we can sort of utilize the time well. We get a good idea in terms of where they're coming from as well. But again, working with franchise brokers and candidates that come through from there, we know that they're already looking at B2B, and then narrowed it down over there. So it's slightly different in there. But look, again, they both are welcome. And we like working with different sources, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a journey, right? It's a journey that the candidate, is taking along with the franchisee or the franchisor as well. And it's discovery. So I think it's a really important process, which kind of leads me into the next question, Dan, for you is, when you're working with a candidate in an early stage, how do you differentiate, the attributes between a B2B and a B2C candidate, and how do you start coaching them into different opportunities that might be best for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting because I was thinking about, with a franchise candidate, you know, there's so many motivations why someone's looking into a business, but I've always found that there's two main ones that are really the drivers and really any decision we make in our careers. One being the positive direction that they want to get to, right? So I know for me as a consultant, and when I've taught other consultants, the main question I want to know, what's the main driver for you to look into businesses? Forget about what type, but just business in general. Or even just what are you looking to get out of your career next, and drilling into that. So we learn, a lot of people say, well, I want to make more money, and we'll dive into that, why and where they want to be and what their goal is, and learning that, because usually, but like beneath that, I want to make more money or I want more freedom, there's an actual clear goal. Maybe it's, having a certain type of lifestyle, taking the summers off, or being with there's something deep that they have, or it's a shore house that they're planning for. Getting someone to see that clear, like, and if it's not money, it's something related to, more freedom or working a certain amount of hours per week. Getting them to be able to clearly see that is first, and as a candidate, I think is the first thing you should do, is figure out what your big why is and why you're doing this. And then there's usually a negative thing you're moving away from, and what is that negative? And is the business going to remove that for you, right? If your big negative is you're working too many hours and the model that you're looking at isn't going to allow you to work less hours, then you're just laterally moving, not transitioning, upward. Those are the main, thing. Now, as far as to answer your question, sorry, a little long-winded, but from B2C and B2B, to me, there's some initial immediate components. So B2C, you got to think about, typically, if you're in a retail environment, fitness, anything that's serving the general public, those operations are typically going to be evenings, early mornings, or weekends, right? You're going to serve when people are not working. And do you want to be in that type of business? Now, granted, once you build it up, you may be able to step away from the day to day, but your business will be running during the times that others aren't, right? To me, that's one of the biggest contributors to, if you want to do B2C versus B2B. B2B, you're typically going to work during corporate hours. You're going to be working with executives Monday through Friday. I know for me personally, I work, very diligently Monday through Friday. I do work on weekends, but not operating my business, working on my business. There's a big difference than Monday through Friday when there's calls coming in and things to deal with, right? So to me, it's first determining what kind of work schedule you want. And then, do you enjoy helping business owners achieve goals? Like, if you like that, then B2B is probably the direction you want to go. What do you
Thanks.
find?
Yeah, Dan, I started off as a franchisee myself, right? And that was a B2C franchise, right? And I think one of the key differentiators in my mind is, B2C is more transactional, right? Whereas B2B tends to be more of a long-term relationship, right? So once again, so when you think about, like, you've got someone coming into a restaurant or coming into a gym, it's usually the transaction, right? It's that membership, or it's just that purchase over there. Sometimes, some memberships can obviously be a lot long-term, and that's how they'd want it to be as well. But I think most of them are transactional, maybe a few months, maybe just a one-off, right? A one-off transaction. B2B, the mindset of the individual is going to be different, right? It's more about the consultative sales piece, right? They're always going to be thinking about, the client for life, right? And how do they keep adding value? The communication piece is really important as well, and always showing the benefits, right? Always keeping in touch with clients and so on. So I think there is, in terms of the candidate profile as well, I think there is a slight difference in, who would be very successful on B2C and who would be successful on B2B, even in terms of go-to-market strategies as well, and the way marketing is spent as well. It's very different in B2C, B2B. B2B, it's going to be a longer-term strategy, something that's going to be continuous business, right? But you've got to nurture those campaigns. B2C is going to be that quick return. You see a KFC ad at like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. It's for dinner, right? That's the ad. That's what they're getting you for. So, yeah, that's my thought. Being and look, I've had the luxury of being on both sides, right? B2C as well as B2B, and I switched from B2C to B2B is mainly because in B2B, I sort of saw the scale that it could take a business to, the ongoing revenues and making it global as well, right?
Yeah, great points. And I always feel that any candidate in any business should be running towards something rather than running away from something. So that's a big thing as well, to distinguish, self-awareness and make sure that they're thinking about things the right way. So let's maybe shift a little bit to somebody who wants to consider an entrepreneurial activity. They don't know exactly what that is, or maybe they do have an idea what that is. Dan, maybe just start with you on maybe describe the difference between doing something as an entrepreneur on their own and building something from the ground up versus adopting the franchise model, and what that differentiation may be, and how you work with candidates on whether they should, organically do something on their own, or realize some of the great franchise benefits that they probably don't know about yet.
Absolutely. I'll touch on one last thing on the last, this is kind of a funny analyzation that I've had, but when I started as a business broker, I joined a network called BNI. It's a networking organization for professionals. And I always would have a suit and tie and really was, playing my role, right, of business broker. And I remember in the group, someone else was saying that they weren't getting a lot of referrals, and they were an attorney. And I remember making a joke about, well, you're dressed like you're the painter, which is nothing wrong with the painter, but you're in the role of attorney. There's a certain type of clothing you should probably wear. Now, if you're in the service business, it's going to be a different type. Me personally, I like to be in a professional environment. So it's kind of funny, but if it does make a difference in your day to day, which type of way you want to show up to your potential clients versus B2B and B2C. As far as entrepreneur, in my opinion, entrepreneurship is anyone that's utilizing limited resources to get the maximum results and taking a risk. So to me, the multi-unit owner is an entrepreneur as much as someone who starts a business. They're just different types. Starting a business. So I've had the luxury of being part of both a franchise system as well as starting businesses. And to me, starting a business means you want to create systems. You want to find problems, create systems, and make a lot of mistakes along the way. I've been fortunate to have great mentors that have been involved in helping me avoid those mistakes. So if you're doing your own business, you need to either have a tremendous type of support system, like a mentor or business partner that's already done something, or you have to just know that you're probably more likely than not going to go through some challenges. A franchise, in my opinion, is you're essentially investing into someone else's mistakes. You're paying for Jayesh's sleepless nights and 100-hour work weeks that he probably did at one point, or to get to where the company's built and you guys have built. So to me, franchise ownership is the opportunity to be in business for yourself, following someone else's systems that they've created for you to help avoid those pitfalls and mistakes. And there's a ton of freedom in being able to be in business for yourself, but still have a roadmap to follow.
Yeah, makes
That's a great point.
Makes sense. And I started off with my very first business was a restaurant, right? Which was this is something that I just started off from scratch, right? I can't cook, but I had chefs and everything else, and we got it going. And in about 3 months, it started running by itself, and so on as well. And it gave me the time again to look at other opportunities, and that's when I purchased my first franchise and got into a franchise system. And the reason I did that is because it was something that was already proven. It already had a brand recognition. It already had systems in place and so on as well. The product and the service offering were already designed. It's not something that had to be created from scratch. So it really comes back to, everyone's time and availability as well, right? If you want to get the best out of your, your time where it's being spent and so on as well, it's a lot easier to get into a system that's already working, where everything is in place. You get in, you learn, as Dan said, you get up to speed really quick. Or the other alternative is you try and do it yourself. You may think that it's going to cost a lot lower to start with, but as months and years go by, you'll realize that it's actually 10 or 20 times more expensive, and the returns are not even going to be as close, to what you could have achieved in the franchise model, right? So unless it is something which is very unique, right? Well, you're going to say something then.
No, I was thinking about, like, in previous businesses, having an admin or, or someone in your team when I first started out with the franchise system for selling businesses, they had a back end office. So although I paid a franchise fee and a royalty, right away that was offset by the back end office that was able to work with me and the other brokers. Right? If I had done that on my own, I would have had to pay that, call it $30,000 to $50,000 a year salary. Right? I was instead paying it in success fees as part of that firm, and I absolutely agree. I think in the long term, all the money you typically spend on a business for going the wrong path, you need to, it's trial and error, you can avoid by following a proven system.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, Dan, is most people want to be, when you're starting your own business, you're typically by yourself, right? It's usually a small environment and so on as well. So when you get into a franchise network, straight away you have access to a larger team, and you're working within a network as well. So you're getting to learn from others. You can collaborate. And in our franchise as well, we have franchise partners that work together on some client solutions, right? And it's great. We get together each week as well, right? When we had a conference last month, one of the things that we got from the feedback was, they loved the interactions that we had, and they can't wait for all of this to go back in person. You don't get that when you start your own business from scratch. That to get there is at least a few years. And that's not every business as well.
Yeah, all great points, guys. Thanks for sharing. So Dan, as you're talking to people, what are they really looking for in a partner? I mean, honestly, they want to work with somebody that they trust. They want to work with somebody that can fit their lifestyle and help them progress their career to the next level. But what are you having coaching conversations around potential franchise owners around the most?
Well, the first thing I think that when people get into looking at franchising, the biggest misconception they have is that they're buying brand recognition. It's something that was ingrained in our heads from the food concepts that we see. I always make the joke that I don't know who the biggest box manufacturer is that's making cardboard boxes, but they're a multi-billion-dollar business. We don't know about them, right? They're not serving us. We only know as consumers the consumer-facing products, right? So people are often saying, well, when I look at a franchise, brand recognition is so important. And really, in my opinion, when you're looking at a franchise, it's the business system that you're purchasing. Brand recognitions can be a benefit, but if you're in a market where the brand recognition is there, that's an added benefit. It's the business system, though, that you're really, in my opinion, you're buying into, that they're going to provide you the playbook to succeed. Now, when looking for what franchise to partner with, the first thing I'll tell you is I think that you need to, if you're looking at an opportunity, you need to give any opportunity you look at more than one phone call. So I know when I've worked with candidates, the first call, something didn't jive with them and they moved on. I always encourage, have a few calls, because you really need some time to understand a business. And when you go to a discovery day, or virtually these days, you're going to feel in your gut if that executive team is the right fit for you. I think that that's very important. Are these people like me, similar to me? Are the other franchisees similar to me? Again, I told you about looking for your top, success, and do you have similar attributes to them? Those are the main components that I think that you should be looking for. I think the reality is, if you find the right industry to be in, you then need to find the right team of people that you feel like you connect with. It's important. You're getting married if you're in a franchise. It's a 10-year agreement typically.
Yeah. Hey, Jayesh, I mean, we have the opportunity, Valenta, to kind of work across all different vertical markets. So the opportunity exists for a lot of people to coexist and help one another. I mean, what advice would you have for somebody who's looking to get into a B2B franchise based on, the attributes that they possess and their desire to work in a specific space?
Yeah, sure. I think, having a collaborative approach is very important as well, right? So in an opportunity that you're looking at as well, you probably want to see as to how much feedback they're going to take from you. Are they open to suggestions? How quick can they actually move, right? If there's a product or there's a service in demand, can they address that and so on as well? I think you want to look at all these aspects as well. In our business, they're absolutely always welcome, right? And we work, as I said, as a strong team environment. But I also do know, some other systems may have a guideline and say, this is it, this has worked for the past 20 years and this is how you've got to do it. But that may or may not necessarily work for all candidates. So I think it really comes back to if you're if you want to have that value add all the time. If you want to have your inputs and have that heard, definitely check around and see, have further discussions around that, and see how that's actually possible in some systems. I think that'd be beneficial. But if you're happy to go with, a system that's worked for about 20 years or 2 years, or whatever it is, then, most or actually all franchises will be suitable.
Awesome. So I'll just open it up to the panel. I just started a chat to see if there's any questions. We're looking to try to hold this meeting to about 30 minutes. So now would be a great time to have some Q&A discussion if there's anything that we didn't cover that's important to you. We see some nice comments thanking us for the participation, but would certainly welcome any questions now if you have any. While we're maybe waiting for some questions to populate, Dan, anything on your mind that you wanted to share that we didn't get to today? I've got more questions, but what's important to you?
I was curious, with Valenta, what would you say the top 3 attributes of a franchisee, an ideal franchisee, are?
Yeah, Jayesh, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I'll probably start on that, and then perhaps you can follow through as well, Alan. Look, I suppose, Dan, for us, it's more about the consultative sales approach, right? I think that's very important. The right communication skills and work ethics, right? I think if I was to just list down 3, I'd list down these 3 over here. As I said, for us, it's about, we can work with any business out there, right? So it's more about trying to understand how we can design the solution. It's understanding the business problems and then designing the solutions for it, right? So someone who's got that kind of a mindset and can see the solution being implemented and is happy to sort of project manage that, that'd be the right candidate, right, for us. Alan, would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Jayesh. I think also that, there's a collaboration that goes on, right? So some people that may be coming from the consulting aspect might be more actively engaged in that consulting process, but others may look at that as being more of a project manager and facilitating. One of the nice things about Valenta is that the back office is done. I mean, we've got, amazing process consultants. We've got an amazing digital marketing team. We've got, I can't write code, but we've got a lot of people who can write code for RPA and a lot of automation and get the bots going to make their practices and their businesses much more efficient. So I look at it as being a conduit to a solution. And, if they've got good B2B communication skills, they don't get intimidated by having conversations with the C-suite, and they just want to have fun, then this is a really great place for them. And Jayesh, I think, also was talking about, our annual conference, and there's a lot of collaboration. It's refreshing that people want to share. Our success is everybody's success, and there's no selfishness. Everybody is open to sharing and realizes that, the more we can learn from one another, the stronger we will be as one. So, it's been a great environment for me to be in so far. And I welcome candidates to learn more about us if they have the opportunity to do so. We have a question from Richard. He asks, what's the best way to overcome a candidate's fear of going a few months before truly cash flow positive, especially if they've been a corporate employee their whole lives? So you guys can both handle that, but Jayesh, I mean, from the franchise perspective, what do you share with candidates around that question?
Yeah, look, again, when you're going to get into business, right, regardless of, starting a business or you're buying a franchise or buying an existing system, right, there's always going to be that cash flow issue. You need to be capitalized, you need to have that initial investment when you get into business. And, there is a risk versus reward, right? When you're on a corporate employer, you're going to get your paycheck, right? A regular paycheck, but, things can change very quickly over there as well. Your job that you've had for about 15 years could disappear all of a sudden overnight as well, right? So it does make sense to sort of plan up as well when you can. But look, I'd say that, in any business, the more you put, the more you're going to get in terms of time, right? The more time and effort you put in, the more you'll get. So it's not about just simply, you could spend $1 million, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get you're going to have cash flow coming in straight away, right? So it's a combination of everything. Put in the hard work, but be smart about it as well. And then you will get results, right? But you do want to be capitalized. You do want to have that cash flow for those first few months, ideally about 6 to 12 months, because sometimes it can vary, right? We've had franchises where they've had the first client in the first week, right? But sometimes it could also take 3 to 4 months. I mean, it just depends. Sometimes the sales cycle is different because you're targeting different target markets, what I mean, and so on, different size businesses. So it can vary. So you've got to be well prepared for it. But on the positive side, once you get it going, and especially if you have a model that has ongoing recurring revenue, you're going to build a very strong asset that a challenge that you would get in any employer.
Great.
I think
Dan, what do you counsel them at? 'Cause I know there's some incentives for cash as well that are kind of advantageous for people now.
Well, I would say that it's a legitimate fear to have, that you're going to go from a W-2 income into to not making an income for a period of time. The first thing I'll say is that the absolute focus from the second you decide to purchase a franchise until really ever is focusing on following the process and the system to a T, and and really enjoying the process, right? Every step in your sales process, there's enjoy every single component of it, even the littlest details, and just focus on building and knowing that if you do that, the sooner you do that, the sooner you'll get to a positive place. I was just laughing because I was thinking, the benefit of owning a business is, it really is true that if done right each year, I think of it like a great relationship, right? A good relationship should get better every year, right? Not worse. Like a marriage, hopefully, right? If you're in a business, it should get better. I know for me, over the 6 years, it's gotten better. And still, no matter what, Jeff Bezos has days that, Amazon is the great, amazing, and then has days where your employees aren't happy or your customers aren't happy. And then you have days where, it feels that way, at least. And then you have days where everything is working, you feel great. You'll have some mornings where you're up very early and dealing with an issue, and then you'll have days where you can take it easy. And it's a kind of freedom that you just really can never get from employment typically. So my best answer is, it's natural to have that fear. You're going to have it, but if you can, the time's going to pass anyway, right? The time to get to where you need to be, you just stay focused on the core goal, that why you signed up.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I would just share also that if people are coming from a place where they weren't responsible for their own schedule, and this is an opportunity that has a lot of freedom for them, just stay focused, right? You can get lost in minutia, you can get lost on day-to-day operations, and not be focused on the things that are generating revenue. So never forget where you're generating revenue every day, and measure yourself daily and weekly as to how much revenue have you made. And if you're not focusing your activity on those specific tasks that are going to get you started, then you need to reevaluate a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to add as well, once again, in a franchise model, right, where there is, your quarterly meetings, where you have like quarterly reviews, or you have someone that can assist you. I think that's very important as well. And, for candidates where they have that fear, if they know that there's a support structure in place for someone who can guide, monitor, coach, and review things on a regular basis, I think that should provide that additional level of comfort to them as well. But they have to be, the last thing you want is get into business and be stressed with cash, right? That's not beneficial in any business. Then you automatically do not perform. And you would not perform even in a job if you had cash flow issues, what I mean? So you always got to get that right.
Awesome. All right. I don't see any additional questions at the moment. So I'll just say to individuals who are on the call, thank you for sharing your time with us again today. If there are questions, please let us know outside of the meeting. We'll be happy to answer them. Jayesh and Dan, thanks for joining. Any closing remarks or things that you'd like to say before we close the meeting up?
No, thank you. This was very informative. I appreciate everyone, taking time to be on this with us.
Thanks everyone for being with us today. And, if you are considering a business, just remember every day that you're not starting, someone else is taking your market share, right? B2C or B2B. So get started.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining, and we appreciate your time today. We'll send out a link to the re-recording if you wish to see it again. Thank you.
Alan, thanks for hosting. Thank you, Dan.